to, what are we looking at, Elliot? 5 commitments already?
5 commitments from the weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really productive weekend for Nebraska. We kind of tried to warn you guys here before it was going to happen that, there was a lot of kids that were trending towards Nebraska, and even more, we'll have a couple videos coming out next week as the commitments steamingly keep rolling in, but super successful weekend for Nebraska. It was a lot of their priority targets. What's super exciting is a lot of them are at different positions, and kind of they're starting to check off those position groups from the board here. So things are looking good, and I'm not officially sure what the class ranking is up to by now, but I'm sure they're kind of flirting with the top 10 after this. So I guess we're just kind of going to go player by player here and give our thoughts on the 3 commitments that happened here on Sunday, and review a little film as well. So I'll hand it off to you, Elliot, and we're gonna get started here with Joey Hunter.
Yeah, so we've talked about all the Grayson guys, in previous videos, and it's kind of been, they were on Agbanoma for a while, and they got his commitment, and then it's kind of been the ripple effect just with recent offers going out to Joey Hunter, and then KD Jones, and then Eli Harris got offered this past weekend, and that led to a commitment as well, and so obviously Joey Hunter picked Nebraska here, and it kind of came down to NC State and North Carolina. I think we had talked about. I think there might have been some other schools involved there, but those were 2 of the main schools. We'll get into some film later on too, but I know Trevor, you really like this guy, and Will does too. Just watching some of his film, it's an exciting prospect, and I think when we were talking before, I kind of compared him to Chancellor Brewington. You'll see some of the blocks that he makes in his film that kind of remind me of Chancellor Brewington. And there's nothing against a tight end that is better at blocking. And I'm not saying he's not a good pass catcher, and he definitely can be a good pass catcher. But, you definitely see an emphasis of blocking on his film. And I definitely like to see that just from a tight end because, if you have a good blocking tight end, it can be an extension of the O-line and the run game, and even staying in to help pass block sometimes too.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think when you're looking at it, the athletic upside of a kid like that's 6'6", 250 pounds or 55 pounds. I think is what he's listed at right now. He's ready to go from day one, like physically at least. So, whereas like with like a Carter Nelson type, Nebraska, when he first got here in the 2024 class, he was a wide receiver for the first year. So they could take a full year to add 15, 20 pounds onto him. And even now, I wouldn't say, at whatever he is, probably 6'3", something like that. Like he's still a bit undersized weight-wise, and doesn't quite look as thick as like a Joey Hunter does right now. So I think, potentially seeing as like a Luke Lindenmeyer is going to be gone next year, there's going to be a hole in Nebraska's tight end room. And, I think Joey Hunter has a really, really good opportunity to see the field early on in his career if he kind of takes the bull by the horns there. So, I guess that's really all I want to say before we look at the film. So I guess we'll go ahead and throw this up. I do believe this is his. So obviously he's playing in Grayson, which in Georgia, I do believe they play in the biggest class, but either way, they kind of play a national schedule. So all of these highlights that you're going to see are against really quality high school football teams. And, so, that just kind of further goes to show that I think when he kind of gets ready to get in the Big Ten, he's seen quality defenses and made plays against kids that are also being recruited to Power 4 schools. So I think that's super exciting. But yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and give it off to you on whatever you want to say next.
Yes. Yeah. So you saw he starts off with a few passing catches for touchdowns. That first one he dragged a few guys in the end zone, and I think he gets into some blocking for the rest of them. Which is nice to see. Just he kind of bullies a few guys like that one. He's taking a guy a few yards down the field. And even just looking at him in the film, I think just from what I've seen from his pictures from their spring practices, and recently, I think he's even added some size since this junior year, which is good to see. Just him continuing to add some size, and that will definitely help him. Just be able to be ready when he gets on campus. And there's another one of those. What I was talking about with Chancellor Brewington, kind of just. When the ball snapped, he's kind of going out there and a little bit of, a pull there, just getting a good hit. Another one of those. where he's getting out there and getting the edge. So it's it's some good film, and like you said, they go against some high level competition. Especially just being in Georgia. Georgia's got high level of high school football, and it's Grayson. They continue to put out high level prospects every year. So, yeah, another good block there. I don't have anything else, I guess, so far on the film. If you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, honestly, this is the first time I'm seeing the film as well. So I'd just say I think there's a little bit of an idea that he's, the majority of his highlights are blocks, which honestly is good for Nebraska. But I think they're kind of banking on the fact that over the course of 3 or 4, or maybe even 5 years, if 5 for 5 gets passed through, that they'll develop him into a reliable pass catcher and someone that at 6'6" is going to be a go-to target in the red zone. And Nebraska really, really, really struggled in 2025 to put up touchdowns in the red zone. And I think adding a guy like Joey Hunter just gives them that much more of a threat. Especially considering if they continue their high-profile recruiting on the offensive line. Like this is a team and a coaching staff that's really addressing, getting that extra inch, in football, like inches matter, and adding a guy like this that can block and also has the potential to go up and snag any given 50-50 ball that Trey Taylor or Anthony Calandria or TJ Lateef or Danny Kaelin is going to throw to him. That could be the difference between winning games for Nebraska in the future. And yeah, I think it looks it's looking up overall, and I love the addition. But I guess we can go ahead and move on to the other 2 commitments. So you're definitely a little bit more well-versed on Mato, Mo, but I'll just give a little bit of a rundown. He's 6'3", 240. He's from Utah. A little bit of an underrated recruit, I think. It definitely seemed like kind of after his junior season, I guess is how I'd say it, his recruitment started to pick up. Missouri was kind of flirting around, and he eventually went on to commit to Minnesota, correct? It wasn't Missouri?
Yeah, it was Minnesota.
Okay, so it's kind of weird. He took a visit last week in OV to Minnesota and ended up committing. The situation was super weird. He posted on social media, and then a couple minutes later, he deleted it, I guess, and told people that he was committed, at least kind of like a silent commit to Minnesota, but was still going to obviously come to Nebraska, and he ended up making it to campus. And obviously it ended up that he verbally committed to Nebraska. So as far as I know, that's the only 2 official visits that he had scheduled. And it seems like this is going to be kind of the one that he sticks with. But obviously knowing that this is the first time that he's traveled to Lincoln as well, who's to say that another school doesn't try to come in really quickly at the end of the month and maybe try and pull him away. But regardless, it's the first addition Nebraska had to the defensive edge room. And which is a room that they really need to improve over the next couple of years. So I like it. It's a position of need, and yeah, I guess I'll kind of give it off to you for whatever you want to say next. But
yeah, so like you said, he was committed to Minnesota, and it was kind of a weird situation. I think that he was kind of Minnesota has a kind of like a different kind of a tactic. They try to honestly peer pressure their recruits into committing just based off of guys on campus, other guys that are committed on campus, players on the team, coaches. And, sometimes that'll work out for you. And whatever works for a program works for a program. But obviously here, he still wanted to make sure he did his due diligence getting out to Nebraska. And it worked out well for Nebraska here. And I think this was Nebraska's first edge commit, and I know they didn't have one in last year's class, so it might have been since the 2025 class, or even the 24 class. And so it's just a big addition just to get a pure edge guy out of the high school ranks. We'll get into the film after this, and you'll see he's quick off the edge, which I really like, which is obviously what you want to see out of it. Sometimes you have a bull rusher out there, but he does look pretty big compared to the rest of the guys he's going against. So I don't know how high of a level of football he's playing against in Utah, but he kind of just looks really big compared to everybody else. And he's 6'3", 240, which is still pretty big, but he just kind of looks big compared to everybody else out there. He does seem like he's finding a knack to get in the backfield almost every single play on here too, pretty easily. He does looks like he has good fundamentals too, setting the edge. There's a few run plays where he sets the edge and he kind of stays there, and then the run kind of bounces over to his side, and he's just there waiting to make the play. So it's good to see that he's already developing those type of fundamentals in high school as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And honestly, this is the first time I'm seeing this film, but he looks like he's quick off the edge, pretty athletic for his size. I definitely think it's a kid that at whatever 6'3", 240, he's probably going to add around like 15 pounds in college at least to get to kind of that Big Ten level that Nebraska would want. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like they didn't add one in the 2026 class. Dylan Berryman was the only defensive lineman that they added. Is that true?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
So so and he's a true interior piece. Jaden Travers, true interior piece. And then they're thinking, Errol Demontagnac could maybe slide out to the edge, but this is the first true edge, like you were saying. So it's big time for the position. Apart from that, really the last addition made was through the transfer portal in Williams Winery. So and then they're kind of moving
Anthony
some
Jones
linebackers over. Oh, Anthony Jones, you're right. I'm sorry.
You're good.
So yeah, I mean they've been mainly focusing through the transfer portal, and even then you've seen Nebraska kind of hit and miss on the recruiting trail this offseason as well. So I think it gives a little bit of a future outlook to Nebraska at the edge position, and obviously it's a position that Nebraska is going to need to start ramping up production from. So if this is a guy that can go get you 4 or 5, 6 sacks a year instead of 2, you got to do what you got to do to get him. And I think Nebraska did a really good job at swaying him from Minnesota here. Obviously knowing that, Minnesota last year had 9 sacks on Nebraska. Any guy that they're interested in recruiting is a guy that Nebraska should probably be going after too. So it's good to see them get a win over PJ Fleck. And I'm sure Matt Rhule is kind of smiling at that as well. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to say on his film here. Otherwise we can get going on Eli Harris as well.
Yeah, we can go straight into Eli Harris.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get everything changed up here. Okay. Eli Harris is now the 4th Grayson commit, 3-star linebacker. He's 6'1", 200. I believe he had one more OV. I can't remember what school it was.
I think it was either Pitt. Yeah, Pitt.
And I guess the other finalist was Texas A&M. I don't know if he had an official visit scheduled with them, but any guy that Texas A&M is going after is probably a guy Nebraska should be too. Pitt's solid as well. They stole Jashir Whittington out of the transfer portal from Pitt, so they're obviously interested in the kind of profile of kids that Nebraska, that Pitt goes after, and it's a successful program, so they know what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talked about it before we hit record here, but he's a little undersized. I definitely think Nebraska's taking a flyer on him, knowing that what's happened to the linebacker recruiting board over the last couple of weeks has forced them to continue expanding their board. But I mean, it's a kid that's got a lot of potential, I'll say. And obviously, like we said earlier, he's playing for Grayson, so they play some pretty high level high school football. And I think he has the potential to step into the room and at least have a say in what goes on over the next couple of years. But yeah, I guess I'll hand it off to you for that. If you want to talk a little bit about his recruitment, and then we can get into the film.
Yeah. So, Pitt was leading there for a while, and they had been in this recruitment for a while. So, it kind of seemed like, if Nebraska did make an offer here and was aggressive, just because, they're a higher level program than Pitt is, just from a recruiting standpoint, it seemed like Nebraska could easily make a move. And so, he came into the weekend without an offer. And then, he got an offer over the weekend. And then he committed pretty quickly, obviously. He committed Sunday morning. And so, like you said, he's a bit undersized. And I think, thinking Vincent Shavers is around the same size too. And so we already see what he can do. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it too, we'll see it when we get into the film as well. He does blitz well, just like Vincent Shavers does, just because he's just a bit of a smaller guy and he can get lost sometimes. I think his first play is a blitz. And he does a good job just doing a good job of kind of throwing off the offensive lineman and getting around him and getting into the backfield. So looks like he lines up off the edge sometimes for Grayson as well. Even though he's 6'1", 200, he can easily put on some, weight to that frame as well. But yeah, I like what I see here from his film. And Nebraska did a good job closing here with, how the linebacker board has looked the last few weeks. So I'll let you give your thoughts on his film as well.
Yeah, real quick, just a little bit while I'm researching this. I was trying to look at Nebraska's edge roster here. So
Yeah.
specifically, I think it reminds me of a guy like kind of like a Willis McGahee type, where it's like he
Okay.
was
Yeah.
recruited to Nebraska in as a linebacker, but obviously they kind of stuck him on the edge. And in his true freshman season, Willis McGahee had a ton of success. I think he had 2 forced fumbles, maybe a sack or two, and just was kind of
Yeah.
making those like havoc plays that Nebraska really missed out on this year. And for whatever reason, during, his redshirt freshman year this year, he never really saw the field for one reason or another. I couldn't tell you why, but it reminds me, Eli Harris reminds me a lot of like a Willis McGahee type that can be brought off the edge in certain situations, but just kind of has a knack for like finding the ball and making plays. And he looked really physical when I'm watching this film as well. And to some extent, I think that his size could help him kind of stay hidden a little bit, between those big offensive linemen in the
Yeah.
Big Ten, and kind of sneak his way around to disrupt the quarterback and affect the game in ways that might not necessarily be sacks or something like that. But, he has the potential to get off the edge there and not really have a quarterback see him through because of his size. And I think he has really good speed that he plays with as well. So I think it's a good addition. Nebraska obviously needed a linebacker. I would assume they're going to continue recruiting linebacker pretty hard here. And probably adding a couple more prospects to the board over the next couple of months. But definitely it kind of stabilizes the room right now, especially considering Nebraska only added one linebacker last year in Jace Reynolds, who was an in-state 3-star out of Elkhorn South, maybe I want to say, just off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
So I guess you're seeing them address a position of need, which is nice. They at least got one commitment for now. They'll probably continue looking for one or two more. But I guess that'll kind of do it for this video. 3 additions now. It moves them to 13 or 14
16
commitments in the class.
16
is it 16 already?
commitments. Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
you're right.
both.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're ranked 18th and 17th. I'm not sure which one is which, but I know that they're both 18th or 17th for 24/7 and 17th, I think, for On3. So definitely moving up. And obviously, tomorrow, I think the plan for us is to get another video out. We're going to give some updates on Ahmad Hudson, Albert Simeon, some of the guys that haven't committed yet, and give our thoughts on that. And I would just say, just stay tuned. I am expecting a few more commitments within the next few days. And Body has his commitment date set for the 10th, and then Jalen Hill has his commitment date set for the 9th. And then maybe Matthew Gregory sneaks in a commitment there throughout the week as well. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see with that. But stay tuned for probably another video tomorrow just with the updates on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least you and I will probably try and dang near get a video out at least once a day for the next couple of days. So, Nebraska could be, by the middle of the week, they could be dang near at 20 commitments in the class. So things are looking up, and I guess that'll do it for this one. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you probably tomorrow.